Safety general. As a service technician, you follow many safe work practices during your daily activities. Also, you have seen and studied many rules of safe work practices published by various equipment and refrigerant manufacturers. These are important and need to be followed. You will probably recognize many of these rules as you review the following list of safety rules and safety facts the EPA has highlighted for your special attention as you prepare for certification tests. A recommended safety practice when operating refrigerant recovery or recycling equipment is to remain at least 5 feet away from any operating equipment. In the event of a large release of CFC, HCFC, or HFC refrigerant in a contained area, you're required to use a self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, or leave the area. Whenever dry nitrogen from a portable cylinder is used in service or installation, a relief valve is inserted in the downstream line from the pressure regulator for safety considerations. Upon completion of refrigerant liquid transfer between recovery unit and the refrigeration system, you should guard against trapping liquid refrigerant in the service hose between closed service valves. Before working with any solvents, chemicals, or refrigerants, the technician should review the safety data sheets, or SDS. Refrigerant vapors or mist in high concentration should not be inhaled because they may cause heart irregularities or unconsciousness. When pressurizing a refrigeration system with nitrogen, you should use a pressure regulator with a pressure release valve on the nitrogen cylinder. When corrosion is found within the body of a relief valve, the valve must be replaced. According to ASHRAE Refrigerant Safety Classification Standard, A1 is the safest designation. An alcohol spray should be used to remove ice from sight glasses or viewing glasses. To verify the allowable machine test pressure, you should find the design pressure on the equipment nameplate. Do not use oxygen or compressed air to pressurize appliances or check for leaks because oxygen or compressed air can explode when mixed with compressor oil or some refrigerants. R410A is considered to be non-toxic but can cause asphyxia, which means it can cause you to be smothered. In most refrigerant accidents where death occurs, oxygen deprivation is the major cause. When working with flammable refrigerants, never apply an open flame or live stream to a refrigerant cylinder. Do not cut or weld any refrigerant lines when there is refrigerant in the unit. Do not use oxygen to purge lines or to pressurize the system. That's because oxygen is flammable. A technician should use the low side test pressure data plate valve to determine a safe pressure to test for leaks. Two factors, if present, that are most likely to lead to an explosion with hydrocarbon refrigerants are a sufficient concentration of a refrigerant in the space and an ignition source, like a flame. Ensure that the refrigeration system recovery unit is grounded prior to recovery of any flammable refrigerant. The concentration of flammable refrigerant in air at any concentration above the lower flammability limit and below the upper flammability limit will burn or explode. HFO-1234YF is not classified as an A3 higher flammability refrigerant. Propane R290 is not classified as an A2L lower flammability refrigerant. Red is the color marking for process tubes and other pipes through which a flammable refrigerant flows and where a service connection is probable. The color marking that is required on all process tubes and other pipes through which a flammable refrigerant passes and where a service connection is probable must extend a minimum of 1 inch in both directions from such locations. Safety cylinder. Technicians need to be aware of the safety hazards that refrigerants pose. Refrigerant safety is straightforward. If the refrigerant stays contained in the cylinder in the system, then it presents little danger to people. The hazard occurs when a refrigerant comes out of the container or system, often quickly and unexpectedly. Injuries can be avoided if regular safety checks are performed. Refrigerant cylinders should be labeled, secure, and free of rust and damage. They should never be filled to 95% of capacity. A disposable cylinder should be reduced to 0 psig pressure before scrapping. Yellow tops and gray bodies are the approved refrigerant recovery cylinder identification color. When using vapor recovery, the fill level of the recovery cylinder can be controlled by a mechanical float device, an electronic shutoff device, and the gross cylinder weight. One should not heat a refrigerant storage or recovery tank with an open flame. It can result in venting refrigerant to the atmosphere. The tank may explode, causing serious injury to people nearby. The refrigerant in the tank may decompose, forming a toxic material. Reusable containers for refrigerants that are under high pressure above 15 psig at normal ambient temperature, which means the temperature around you, must be hydrostatically tested every 5 years. To meet safety requirements, containers designated refillable by DOT must be used for transporting recovered pressurized refrigerant. Under no circumstances may use a disposable cylinder to recover refrigerant. Care should be used to prevent overfilling a refrigerant storage cylinder because the internal pressure of the cylinder may rise in heated areas and cause an explosion. A refillable refrigerant cylinder must not be filled above 80% of its capacity by weight. A cylinder that has a gray body and a yellow top is designed to hold recovered refrigerant. Shipping. When shipping or transporting CFC, HCFC, or HFC refrigerants obtained with recovery equipment, you need to keep in mind several important points. When transporting cylinders containing used refrigerant, DOT requires that you attach DOT classification tags. A refrigerant label is placed on a recovery cylinder to identify the type of refrigerant. It avoids accidental mixing of recovered refrigerants, allows the recycler to identify the contents, allows the technician's company to determine the amount of refrigerant recovered for record-keeping purposes. Refrigerant cylinders must be in the upright position when they are shipped. A refrigerant label is placed on a refrigerant cylinder to be returned for reclaiming. Adding an odorant to the system to indicate a flammable refrigerant is being used is not important before recharging any flammable hydrocarbon or HFO refrigerant into the system. In general, silicone elastomers used in seals and gaskets are not compatible with HFO refrigerants. Although the saturation pressure, temperature, behavior of two refrigerants might be similar, of all the following characteristics of the refrigerants being compared, we must also take into consideration the potential to oxidize copper tubing. Before shipping any used refrigerant cylinder, you must properly label the refrigerant container. Portable refillable tanks or containers used to ship CFC, HCFC, and HFC refrigerants obtained with recovery equipment must meet Department of Transportation standards. The Department of Transportation regulations require that the number of cylinders of each gas must be recorded on the shipping paper for hazard class 2.2 non-flammable compressed gases. And that is the end of part